13:14 past. I'm common. List radio is lazy radio. So is news conference radio. Apparently, both Rob Brzezinski, who is the acting general manager, he's also the current capologist for the soon-to-be big game world champion Minnesota Vikings. He's talking to the media as we speak. Kevin O'Connell already did. Is that what you said?
Correct.
So what we'll do is we'll re-rack those. We'll take a page out of the Paul Allen Project. And we'll re-rack those.
It's draft week.
Yeah.
We can hear what they're saying.
Well, that's it. And we might not listen to it start to finish, but we'll certainly get a good chunk of it just so we can get a feel for what the brain trust over at the new Winter Park, the TCO Performance Center, is thinking. But right now, it's time for 5, 3, 4.
Time now for 5 questions. Well, actually 3, but 5 sounds like more than 4. Brought to you by Willow River Company. Question number 1.
We're gonna win, Twins, we're gonna score.
It's now time to delve deep into Twins territory.
Crack out a home run, shout a hip hooray! Cheer for the Minnesota Twins today.
Yeah, not a lot of cheering for the Twins this weekend. They were swept by the Cincinnati Reds this weekend, despite starters Joe Ryan, Taj Bradley, and Bailey Ober allowing just 3 earned runs in 18 and third innings for a combined 1.47 ERA. Cam, what do you think of the bullpen, defense, and offense letting down the Twins starters this weekend?
Whoops. Well, before we did, there was some breaking news. I saw this Fish Wrap Factory West Side. Twins put starter Mick Abel on the 15-day injured list. Says he's out because of right elbow inflammation after pitching 13 scoreless innings over his last 2 starts. So when it rains, it pours, as the old saying goes. They get swept by the Redlegs. And then now Abel, who was a bright surprise. It was a bright spot for the Twins, and it was a encouraging start to the season. And now he's out for, it's 15 days. I don't know if that means he has to stay out the entire 15 days, but more than likely he will. I don't know what to make of it, Tenneby. Just the headlines alone. I saved a collection of the headlines from the Twins' 3 games, and they go like this. From the first game is, let me find it here. Game 1, Luke Keeschall has rough game offensively, and the Twins lost to the Reds. Then the next headline for Game 2, the Saturday game, Twins bullpen offense let another strong start go to waste in a 5-4 loss to the Reds. That was the Taj Bradley game where he pitched 6 strong innings. And then yesterday, I gave up on it when the Twins were up 3-1 going to the top of the 9th and went back to Harbor Town to watch the golf. All of a sudden, I get a text from a buddy and says, Twins are now 0-5 in extra inning games or 1 inning. And I was like, what happened? They blew the game. They went to extra innings. They blew it. And that one says, this headline is, Twins swept by Reds, lose in extras as bullpen defense falter in the final innings. And so, we love the start to the season. They were 3-6, I believe, and then they went on that tear. They swept the Tigers. They took, I think, 2 or 3 from Toronto, 2 or 3 from somebody else. Suddenly we have the best record in the American League. We're in first place. Everybody's happy. Taj Bradley's pitching well. Joe Ryan's pitching well. Ober actually had a nice start yesterday. He pitched pretty well for the Twins, and that there have been some questions about his velo. For those of you that aren't ball guys like Tennessee and I, you might not know that velo means velocity, but just kind of letting you in on the baseball lingo. So they really didn't like his velo, but we had some of the offensive players that played pretty well, and they got some clutch hitting, and things were looking good. But now it's the kind of Twins team I think we maybe expected. Bullpen can't hold a lead. Offense is going to struggle, leave runners on base. And, it was just last week I was talking about how, of all the Twins prospects, we hear about this from the Polead Pocket Protectors all the time. Anytime they get a young guy in the farm system, is this guy's going to be a star. Everything points toward him being a great player sometime, right? And they say it about so many people. You start to do, it's the old, the boy who cried wolf. It's like, well, you say that about all these prospects. But the Keeschall guy was really looking impressive, but he's been struggling, for the first part of the year. And on Friday, what were the numbers that he had? Here's it says the Twins second baseman left 7 runners stranded. He batted with the bases loaded in the 3rd inning, 2 runners on base in the 5th inning, and 2 more runners in the 7th. None of those runners scored in those 3 at-bats. Keishel struck out on a called third strike. By the way, challenged it, grounded into his first double play of the season and hit into an inning-ending ground out. After the game, he gathered with the team's hitting coaches to break down his swing and his at-bats. Then he said, we'll get it back. We're a tick off. It can change quickly. That's what I keep on thinking, and it's going to happen soon. And I like the confidence, right? Doesn't take away from the fact that every game counts. Games in April count as much as the ones in September and October. And it's tough to leave that many runners on base when you have a chance to win a ball game. But it sort of is reminiscent of what we heard from Royce Lewis. Remember when he said, I don't believe in slumps. They don't happen. Well, then all of a sudden he has two of the longest slumps. Of the 30 longest slumps in Twins history, he owns two of them. And all of a sudden he said, well, I guess I do believe in slumps. And so I like that Keisha says, Albert is a titch off, no big deal. Well, let's hope he's right. But, you sometimes wonder if it's more than just that. If almost think guys are in denial, it's like, well, no, maybe you're taking the wrong approach to your at-bats. Maybe they already got the book on you. I don't know. But, it's disappointing to lose it. And now with Abel, who was a bright spot, now Abel is unable.
He's unable.
Because he's disabled.
Yeah.
And so we'll see what happens.
Question number 2.
Go Vikings, let's win this game. You'll hear us yell for more.
It's now time to take an in-depth look at the state of the skull.
Adam Schefter of ESPN today revealed this 2026 NFL draft intel.
Draft intelligence. How smart can you be?
And one thing he wrote about the Philadelphia Eagles was this, quote, one possibility is adding Vikings linebacker Jonathan Greenard, whom the Eagles have checked in on at various points this offseason per sources. Greenard had 12 sacks in 2024, but he managed only 3 last season over 12 games, despite a solid 23.3% pass rush win rate. The Vikings have been adamant about getting a premium day 2 pick for Greenard. Philadelphia holds picks 54, 68, 98 on day 2 this year. League sources say the Eagles and Vikings could revisit discussions they already have had during the upcoming draft, but talks have lost steam in recent weeks. The Eagles' wish list of trade candidates goes well beyond Greenard per sources, though. Roseman almost always has a plan A, B, C, and D, and his team is one to monitor on one of the busiest weekends of the NFL calendar. Common, your thoughts? Would you do Jonathan Greenard for a day 2 pick to the Philadelphia Eagles?
Remind me, we like Greenard, but he wants too much money. That's what it's all about, right? We don't want to pay him that kind of money. That's basically the sticking point.
Yeah, it sounds like there's some contract negotiation where might be the problem. And then obviously the Vikes might have depth there.
Okay.
With Van Ginkel.
Okay.
And Dallas Turner.
Okay. He's a good football player, and it's the old, it's that fits in the B-flow system, whether that's overrated or not, but I tend to think it's really not. I do think every coordinator has their system, the way they do things, and players, every player we've talked to over the training camp, we'd have him on. We talk about, B-flow lets you kind of be free flowing, but he has a role for you on the field, and all players seem to
lets you be flowing.
Yeah, he lets you be flowing. That's very good. And and it seems as though people like to play for him. This could be Philadelphia. They really do want him, but they're trying to, it's a poker game, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we'd love to have him, but really, we don't need him that bad. We got other options. So if you want to trade him to us, we're not going to give you a day 2 pick. We'll give you.
I did love the Schefter wrote, the Eagles' wish list of trade candidates goes well beyond Greenard per source. But that's Philadelphia feeding that to you.
That's correct.
Let them know that we have other options if Greenard isn't going to come here.
Yes, so that it's like, well, we better take what we can get instead of Philadelphia going, we're desperate to get him. I don't know. When you say day 2, that means anything could be in the 2nd, 3rd round, right?
Yeah.
Draft picks are valuable. We found that out here. I mean, in the last few years, that when you miss out on draft picks, there's not just for immediate help, not just for depth, but for the future. You don't have any guys to take positions over. So I hate giving up picks, and then it goes back to, I just don't know how close the Vikings are to being a contender. I know that a lot of people point at those last 5 games. Hey, we were 4-8 and then we finished 9-8. And, we had a quarterback that didn't know what he was doing and we had some injuries. And, if it wasn't for a punt return against the Bears had the punt return, by Duvernay.
Devin Duvernay.
Duvernay. we'd have been in the playoffs. Well, it's more complicated than that. But you feel like you want to go into every season thinking, yeah, we got a chip chair and a chance. And I think Greenard really helps that. But is he like, without him, is it like, well, then we're done? No. But I don't know. I'd have to think about that. We'll leave that to the I was going to say Krasinski. He has nothing to do with it. We'll leave that to the Brzezinskis, the O'Connells of the world to figure that out. But if it's a high enough pick, I don't know if Greenard's worth I don't know if Philadelphia would give her a second rounder for him. Second round can be pretty valuable. You can get a lot of good players there. We'll see. That's 5.
And maybe it'll be one of those where both teams are waiting to see what's on the clock.
Yes.
Right. If you're the Vikings, if there's someone you really like at 54, well, then we'll make the pick. Or
that's correct.
But you want to see who's available first.
534 presented by the Willow River Company. They're at my place right now as we speak, taking a look at some landscaping projects. Don't just maintain your property, experience it. With a Willow River Experience monthly subscription, you can bundle 5 core services, 3 seasonal upgrades, and 4 custom add-ons under one simple plan. Visit willowriverexperience.com today to build your 534 experience. More Wild and Wolves talk on the side of the break. Coming back, brought by the Fan.
And that's it for today's edition of 5 Questions. Well, actually 3 questions, but 5 sounds like more than 4.
KFAN's hockey experts. Did he just say that?
It's not a lot of them.
You played the game. I played the game. Anybody else on the Hockey Cove and Meat Sauce didn't play any hockey, did they? Not that I'm aware of. Barrero didn't. JG didn't. Did Nordo play hockey? You and I are the two experts.
Brett Blakemore, I think.
Brett Blakemore.
He played hockey.
Okay.
But he played in Iowa, so I don't know if that counts.
Yeah, I don't know if that counts either. By the way, some breaking news for you, Tenneby. I talked to the renovation crew. They think they're on schedule for us to be ready at 1:30.
Really?
So we may
I don't know if I want to leave.
I kind of like this cool 108. It's like, it reminds me of spinning hot stacks of wax from the top of the racks for all those Sundays until they relieve me of my duties there. I've been fired from 5 or 6 different responsibilities here at the radio station over the years. This was one of them, but that's okay too. I'd kind of had the wine, the women, and the song when it came to the disc jockey stuff. It was time for me to move on with my life. We got a special surprise for you tonight. We'd already promoted the fact that we have Rob Brzezinski and Kevin O'Connell news conferences. We're going to re-rack them throughout the show. We'll play both of those during the show, but we're pleased to find out we also have Justin Jefferson, who met with the local media not long ago, and here's what he had to say.
Kyler Murray side and he hit the quarterback next year?
Yeah, my first reaction was just, it's really good to kind of get some good talent in the room to kind of give a little spark in that room, to kind of see a competitive edge and from those guys to really lock in and to, do what we're expecting them to do, which is to come in and, to be that guy. And, we need that one guy for this team. So I'm definitely excited for that room, excited to see what those guys have in store for us in training camp.
What was that process like as the Vikings started to bring in Kyler Murray? How looped in were you on those conversations?
Yeah, they told me about the different stuff they had going on, the people that they were looking at into maybe bringing in or to at least, come in for a workout or anything. So they kept me in the loop for some bit of it, of course not the whole thing and making that final decision to signing him. But, definitely kept me informed, definitely kept me in the loop into, the different talent that we could possibly have in this building. So I appreciate them for that, for sure.
They talked about it being a competition, just being more competitive in that room. Just curious as a player how you look at that, knowing what Kyler's done in his career and the things that he's already sort of accomplished.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking for those, big, exciting plays. Definitely looking forward to his speed, his quickness, his arm strength that he's shown countless times over the years. And then it's just, for JJ, for somebody to enter that room with that type of ability, that type of talent, he's got to step it up a little bit. So it's good for him to, feel that type of pressure and to to really, lock in a little bit and say it's either now or, I'm going to take that backseat again. So it's all a competitive mindset when it comes to these type of things. So it's all about who's ready for that moment and who's ready to step up and take that initiative.
Remember you talking about wanting to work with JJ this offseason. Did you get a chance to do that?
Yeah, have been doing that, and it's been going very well. So just trying to continue meeting up with him, creating that time and creating that connection, building on those type of things, talking to him about the different things that he should work on, different things I should work on, and just keeping that connection and that relationship is the big thing. So we'll continue to do that, continue to work with, Kyler and all of the quarterbacks that I can work with, just so we know that connection is top tier when we start training camp.
So what else has your offseason looked like? What have you added to your training regimen or anything?
Yeah, nothing really too new. Just all about, of course, tapping in on the weaknesses that I have, focusing on the strengths that I have, and just trying to figure out different ways that I can better my game in any sort that I can. If it's, working on my hand-eye coordination, working on my catching, working on my routes, working on just having to go through those double teams, having to go through contact, getting stronger in the weight room, all of those different type of things. So just taking a little bit pieces of each little thing and just adding it to my game.
How have you gone about trying to build a relationship with Kyler at the same time as you're working with JJ as well?
Yeah, Kyler's, a little bit new, so he's still kind of working into things, trying to figure out, everything here in Minnesota. So, now that we're kind of, back into the mix of things, back into the schedule, we're going to work a lot more now than, leading into this moment.
Hey, at what point, too, does it become important, Justin, to know who the quarterback is going to be, just from the rep standpoint of you and that player? Because you can work with McCarthy and Kyler. I'm sure that they have their own styles and tendencies. At what point do you sort of need to know who's going to be starting just to maximize your playing ability?
Yeah, that's literally a very difficult question because we're not really going to know that until after training camp. So it's just all about just working with them as much as I can, working and try to build that repetition over and over again. Because at the end of the day, I feel like it's more of a quarterback thing than it is a receiver thing. I see it out the hand and I catch the ball. For them, it's just more of, I would say for Kyler, just trying to time up my route running, how fast I'm running, how quick I'm running, how fast I'm getting in and out of the breaks. So those are kind of the things that I feel like it's more for a quarterback than it is for a receiver.
Justin, when the Vikings signed Kyler, Kevin talked a little bit about his mobility and the way that can help maybe open things up. Yeah. Defenses have to think about that while they're trying to cover you. Mm-hmm. When you played with whatever degree of mobile quarterback, how much have you seen that affect the way defenses play it? How much do you think that could help you out?
Yeah, it affects it tremendously. It's a difference from somebody that's playing Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady type of quarterback from playing Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson. It's a little bit different. You got to have a little bit more people in that box, a little bit more people kind of eyeing them down. Might have a quarterback contain, quarterback spy. So kind of all of those things kind of playing a part into those defenses and kind of allows us to, on the back end, go against those DBs and safeties and not have to rely on a whole bunch of double teams and those cloud coverages that we've been getting a lot of these past 2 years.
Justin, I know during Super Bowl week you were asked a lot about the quarterback play, how you guys probably maybe would have been in that conversation for the Super Bowl had you had Darnold. Do you feel like with the acquisition of Murray and the competition in that room, that put you guys right back in those Super Bowl conversations?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Especially, just like you said, sparking up that room a little bit and kind of seeing who's going to be that competitor, who's going to be that person that, is the last man standing at this situation. It's pretty exciting for me. I love those type of battles, that type of competition, because you see that in your quarterback. He had a whole competition battle, the training camp leading into the season, and have everybody on his back and rooting for him and excited for him to go through the season. So I'm excited for that for sure. And we have great talent in that room. So especially for JJ to get that spark in him, and for Kyler to come from Arizona and, continue that spark and to, go through this new journey with him.
What was it like to see Sam win the Super Bowl?
It was phenomenal, honestly. I was very excited for him, very happy for him. He's been through a lot his whole entire journey. So, for him to, win this Super Bowl and for him to continue to, be bright and to shine, it was amazing. I was very, very happy for him.
Justin, what are your weaknesses?
That's something I try to, understand every single day. It's just, I wouldn't say weaknesses, but, there aren't totally my strengths. So, it just would be just locking in when I'm tired. And that's the most hardest part for any athlete, is to lock in when they're tired at their most vulnerable times. And then also, keeping up my strength, making sure that I'm, holding on the contact, making sure that I'm still fighting through those people that's trying to put hands on throughout my route running, and those defenses where it gets really physical. So just trying to maintain that.
How tough was it now reflecting back on 2025, because you played a ton, your stats were down, you don't really control that at your position. As you reflect on that now, how difficult was the season? Because it was a healthy season where you probably didn't maximize yourself, but it really wasn't.
Productive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. It was just one of those seasons that you can't really reflect on too much, but you can reflect on it in a good way, which is taking the good things, the positive things out of last season, and then continue to work on those things leading up into this next season. So it's just not really much to really think of negatively. Every single season is not going to be that 1,500, 1,800 plus yard season. So it just one of those learning curves, one of those things that you kind of just got to continue putting in that work, and then it's all going to pay off on the back end.
When you were working with JJ, what did that look like? Did you go out to California, or were you guys?
No, we was at a designated location. We was at a a good location. Some here in Minnesota, mostly here in Minnesota. Okay. But really just anywhere where we can meet up and can find time to really throw the ball to each other. And it really doesn't have to be that, having to run 30 different routes, but it's all about just, feeling the ball coming and seeing the ball coming out of his hand, and then just feeling the impact and the velocity of his football. So it's great to just get that timing down pat. Of course, starting way earlier now than starting in training camp. So just getting a little head start, and it definitely feels good working with him for sure.
Just anything you noticed different with JJ at all? You mentioned the delivery speed. And mechanic wise, you noticed it changed at all?
Mechanic wise, I feel like that's more of a KO's question. I'm not really looking too much of the mechanics, but I am looking at the timing of when he's throwing the ball, the location where he's throwing the ball at, and I feel like he's a lot more confident into where I'm going to be at, how fast I'm going to get there, what timing to throw that ball before I break. He's kind of understanding all of that, and just like I said before, it comes with time. It comes with just seeing it, repetition, and seeing it over and over again. So by this time next year, he's going to be an even totally different quarterback than he is now. So just trying to work with him every single chance that I get, trying to fix the little things that we can fix. But at the end of the day, he's not perfect, and we're not expecting him to be perfect. So just trying to get him as close to perfect as we can.
Justin, you've gone to some Timberwolves games and formed that connection with Ant Edwards. Just with them and the Wild being in the playoffs right now, do you plan to hit up any games to support those guys?
Maybe so. I haven't been to a hockey game before, so I might have to, swing by that. Right. I heard it was crazy atmosphere, good time, so I might have to go check that one out. But Timberwolves definitely got to sneak in there and give me a game or two for sure.
Thanks,
Thank y'all. Appreciate you.
Better get there soon, because they only got a couple of games left the way they're playing right now. I'd get there this opening series. You know what? We're going to rebound. We're going to win tonight. And then we're going to be a gentleman's sweep. We're going to beat Denver 4-1. The rest of you call him Justin Jefferson. I call him Jets because I got a good vibe with him. We had him on the air one time. We were out at
I
training
always
camp.
love that one.
We had Blake Cashman on. Suddenly, Jet shows. We go, Blake, we love you, but guess what? Jets is here. He understood, though.
He did.
He understood. He knew where he was in the pecking order, much like they could have done the work in Studio A anytime today. They could have done it anytime from 6 a.m. to 6 p. But they didn't want to disturb the flow of the others. They know this show has no flow.
Yeah.
This show just has no direction.
It's the J.J. McCarthy of the fans.
Yeah. Wow. How would you put it that way?
I'm including myself.
Can you just start calling me 9? That's my alter ego. My alter ego is actually a gadfly, but that's another story in itself. We'll break. We'll come back with more here on the Common Man program with 10 to be on the Fan.
Fan and BigDeck.com want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with our national cash contest. Enter the keyword BILLS at KFAN.com now for a shot at winning. That keyword is BILLS. Enter now at KFAN.com.
Couple 13, 14 past. I'm Common. He is 10 to be. I noticed a smidgen of doubt in your voice when you said, well, not sure they'll have that they're drilling some holes in Studio A. They said it would be 90 minutes. You seem to have a little bit of doubt.
You never trust them.
But they're done. And they said we can move back to the studio. So what we're going to do, this is your home of the Re-Rack National Football League Draft Week coaching staff and front office and player interviews. So we just had Justin Jefferson, which he spoke to the media. That was within the last hour or so. Same with Kevin O'Connell. He addressed the assembled media at TCO Performance Center to talk about Draft Week, which starts Thursday. And here's what Kevin had to say.
One of my favorite days of the year, the new year, when you actually get your team in for the first time. Phase one is always an interesting thing because you're so excited to get them all back here. And outside of me, trying not to be long-winded in a team meeting this morning, they're really spending their time with Joe and the strength and conditioning staff, position coaches, and we're really building, the initial foundation of what we hope to really get done during kind of the off-season program, which, as you guys know, from my perspective, is really the teaching and learning phase to set these guys up to have their best chance to compete when the training camp comes around. So obviously been a really good process throughout the off season. Big week with the draft coming up this week. Just want to compliment Rob, his the personnel staff, the coaching staff, the way it's come together. We got a lot of talented people in this building, and just the work both here, offsite at pro days, visits, workouts, the combine. Everybody's put everything they had into this to make this a positive outcome, and guys have really worked really well together, and looking forward to see how the end of the week plays out.
Coach, what kind of message does it send to have Justin Jefferson here at the start of OTAs?
Yeah, it's I spend so much time with Justin, just and I'm sure he gets tired of seeing my name come up on his cell phone. When he doesn't answer, I text him, and when he doesn't answer my text, I call him. So we got a nice little sequence going. But I get him every now and again, and when I do, he knows how much he means to me. I think his leadership, spoke for itself a year ago, and as he's continues to ascend, really as the face of our franchise, he continues to understand the weight of that and kind of the weight of the office of, I want him to have an impact. I want him to feel like he's involved with the things that we decide to do as our team, how we prepare our team. I think he's earned the right to be a part of those conversations, and I enjoy the heck out of having him with him. And I know everybody was excited to see him here today, and as busy as he is and as many directions as he gets pulled in, for him to make it a priority to be here today and be here this week, to kick things off is massive.
Kevin, what is this phase like with Kyler in terms of him getting onboarded here?
Yeah, so the initial phase is really the guys will throw a little bit on their own, but we're not really as coaches we're not allowed to be there until we get to the phase 2 setting. So they'll do some of that, light throwing at the end of a couple of the workouts. Just to kind of get going a little bit. But we really, I'm a big believer in the first few days, the first couple days this week for sure. You get the units together. We got our team together this morning for, kind of a welcome and an intro and just laying out some of what we're hoping to accomplish during these 9 weeks. But really it's about kind of the grassroots of the position rooms, coaches being able to establish their rooms. And then it's a big time for Joe and his staff, Tyler and their staff, to really kind of calibrate, each individual guy's performance plan and the things that we want to try to accomplish. Nowadays, these guys come in great shape. They come in, off the on the heels of the work they do wherever they call home. Many of them have been here for the majority of the off season, and now it's just a matter of getting to do it in a little bit more of a structured, formal setting. But the first 2 weeks are really lifting. They'll move those guys around a little bit. Some of the change of direction, some of the movement stuff, really preparing them and preparing their bodies for the positional work that'll start in phase 2. And then as we get into it, we get a little bit more of the, offensive and defensive philosophies, the kicking game philosophies with Hat. And then we'll try to get out in front of some of the install so that it doesn't overload guys. We're under such a tight time crunch, on these days, the 4 hours, and want to always make sure we ask a lot of our guys. We have great participation, but I do like trying to make sure I give them what I call those 3.5-day weekends, get them out of here on Thursday at a time where they can, if they want to spend the weekend here and spend time together, great. If they're headed back off to, be with their families or whatever it may be, that's great too. But we try to get our work in and be real purposeful with everything that we do, everything we ask of our players, and know that we're ramping up from phase 1 to phase 2, and then inevitably after, whatever it is, Memorial Day, we'll be able to get on the grass all together.
Kevin, in terms of the number of players spending part of the offseason here, have you seen that tick up over your time here? What do you think led to that? So,
I have. I think, I would just tip my cap to all of our resources on the first floor, whether it's Tyler and his group. Inevitably, there's going to be guys working through some things coming out of a season. We've got great doctors here, so a lot of our guys, get some of the best care possible right here in the Twin Cities. I think Joe, one of the things that, I was really, interested to get feedback on after the season was just after a full off-season training camp and season been with those guys in the strength and conditioning program. And Joe, I know surveys get thrown out a lot around different parts of the NFL, but one thing that came back, crystal clear to me was our players are ecstatic about Joe and that staff in there, and I think it's a credit to those guys, how they've been able to kind of make this a team environment in there, but yet players feel like they've got individual programs, ways that I personally have a direct path to getting to where I want to get to. So people have found that very beneficial to maybe it's not the entire time, but making sure that they're not only here present with them enough, but then all of our players are constantly, we're connected with some of the people that train them from afar, trading notes and making sure these guys just want to make sure that they capitalize on the resources we have in this building for sure.
Kevin, how often are you talking to Harrison Smith?
It's been a few days, but now that you remind me, I'll probably bug him today. But no, it's something we're still trying to give Harrison as much space as possible, and I think he's earned that. If it's anything at this point, Dave, it's seeing how he's doing, seeing how his family is, seeing how his golf game is, all of those things.
So does that affect your draft bouts at all in terms of whether he's, what his final decision ends up being? Do you need to know before the draft?
No, I don't think so, Kevin. I think it's something that you kind of look at it from a lens of the most important thing is getting your board stacked with how we see him, And that's a combination of the evaluations from a lot of different people, and we've got a scouting department, a coaching staff that has worked so well together through this process that it's about setting that board, and then obviously you want to have conversations about with each and every selection how that impacts your depth chart, your 53-man roster, but no, it doesn't.
Kevin, what kind of impact do you anticipate Keith Carter having on your offensive line?
Yeah, Keith is somebody that when the season ended, we went through a real thorough process of talking to quite a few people. Really had to cast a wide net, a deep, talented kind of pool of guys, and I'd kind of really wanted to see Keith's vision for the room. I think it can be a real benefit to have kind of come a year ago and kind of in that assistant role, you really have to kind of allow the lead O-line coach to lead, and he did a great job of that. He was really, really good with the young guys. He was really good with the development of some of our young guys, whether it's Donovan or Joe or any of those other young guys that we had. But what I really was struck by was Keith's vision for how we play, what it looks like when we snap the ball, the way we run off the ball in the run game, his thoughts on how we can continue to strive to be the best pass protection team that we can, understanding how we've been played against from a standpoint of a lot more four-man rush and games and picks and things that make it so that you've got to really identify the areas to spend your most time on task to, really justify and match up with how you're defended. We have players like Justin, like Jordan, we have, TJ, we have players that warrant a conversation for our opponents when they're putting together game plans that require coverage and principles of coverage to be a big part of that. So the way to maximize pressure against us historically over 4 years has really been to, send four guys forward in the most dynamic way possible and try to make it really, really hard on those five guys up front. So what are we doing schematically? What are we doing from a play calling standpoint? What are we doing from how we identify certain things to try to make it as clear, concise, and make it about technique and fundamentals? And that's where Keith had such a clear vision of what that looked like. And just consulting with some of our players, whether it was Brian or CD, Donovan, any of those guys, it became pretty crystal clear that he was the right guy. And then also to be able to get a guy like Frank Smith, part of the think tank, part of the offensive staff, in that assistant head coach role that can bring 4 years of his most recent experience helping coordinate Mike's offense in Miami. But even beyond that, having been in the O-line room, having coached tight ends, he's a very, very, experienced coach that's brought a ton to kind of the high-level thinking of our offensive staff. It's been awesome.
How does the think tank work too? Because at the end of the day, there has to be a decision made on things, Kevin. Yeah. So like how much has this potentially altered how you're going to approach things offensively? Yeah. And at what point is too much input probably not a great thing? If that makes sense.
It's a great question because at the end of the day, you've got to the game moves fast, and you got to really lean into all the work that's been done up until those moments, but there's still a game going on. There's still adjustments happening. Each individual play call, each circumstance, down and distance, where you are on the field, all those things apply, especially in the head coach role, where you're trying to manage the team to win the football game. And sometimes you call plays, with a mindset of how well your defense is playing or how well your special teams unit is doing, stealing yards in the kicking game. But I do think, Judd, I do think that the time that we've spent as a staff really evaluating not only this past year, there were some outliers with this past year, but there are some things when you look at, 3-4 years of inventory now, there's some things that I know me personally, I've got to look at and really take as tangible information to help me be what I want to be, which is the best version of myself, not only as the head coach, but as the play caller. Every year's different. You're going to stay true to some foundational things, but how you get there, the creativity you get there with, the principles, that you get there with can look a lot different. And I think that's ultimately on me. And I've really challenged the staff to, have some conversations about really detailed, specific ways that we can get better in different phases of our offense. And then also understand, you look back on a lot of it and, there's a lot of sayings you can, attach to it in regard to where close ends up getting you. But we've been close on some things that dynamically could change some things. But what are we doing as coaches to make sure, we are providing the most clarity? This is exactly where we want aiming points, landmarks, techniques, first steps, hat placement, because that's what this time is this offseason program. I told the team this morning, we have a foundation built culturally, football-wise, but this 9 weeks is about raising that foundation to a higher level, because then you can start having a conversation about your ceiling as a football team when training camp comes around and what you inevitably have to, in a short amount of time, prepare your team to become. But for right now, it's about that foundation, details, little things where we don't have an opponent to put stress on us from a standpoint of a scoreboard or a gotta-have-it situation. We've got ourselves, and we've got to maximize every single day and make sure when our players leave here, especially in a voluntary program where you're really, asking a lot out of many of these guys to be here away from their families and things like that. You got to make it worthwhile. You got to give them every tool, every resource, every ounce of coaching we have, and also give them the runway to grow every single day as players.
Coach, we asked you a couple weeks ago about Jonathan Greenard.
Yeah.
Anything changed since then?
No, I had a conversation with him last week. We're trying to keep our conversations and dialogue going. I have such a good relationship with Jonathan. He's been so impactful on me personally, one of our leaders. He knows exactly how I feel about him, how we feel about him as an organization, and I'll continue to have that dialogue and ongoing dialogue, and as we move forward. But it's been good, and I think I think Jonathan's really respected at least the point of view that our dialogue brings and the clarity, and he knows that I'm always a phone call away.
And I know this is a voluntary thing, but do you expect him to be part of this phase one part?
I can't speak for the days moving forward. He was not here today, but yeah, it's a voluntary camp. We've had historically really great participation, and I understand the things that come up from a business standpoint, and I think a lot of people understand that, and we'll just keep working through it.
Kevin, just when it comes to Jordan Addison picking up his fifth-year option, just where do you think he is at, and why do you want to pick up the fifth-year option?
Yeah, I think, from a talent standpoint and his impact, it was really felt immediately when Jordan first arrived here, and what he's brought to our offense and his ability to really dynamically complement Justin, and I view Jordan as one of the top tier, quote unquote, if you want to call him, number twos in the league, and that is not in any way, shape, or form negative when you're talking about that other guy being Justin Jefferson. But the other part of it with Jordan is just our relationship and where it's gotten to, and we've spent a lot of time together talking about his personal growth. He was an incredibly young player when he got into the NFL, and he's learned some lessons over the years, and I think he understands it's a critical time in his career. His ability to have an impact doing what he loves, which is playing football, loves playing football as much as anybody we have in this organization. But we need to make sure that he understands, where he's at now and the growth and all those things and what that equals. And I think he does, and I'm excited to get going with him this year.
Kevin, as you're getting to the end of this draft process, or at least the prep process, with Robin kind of at the point of that, what has this been like working with him, and just how is his influence on this kind of taking shape over the whole draft process?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost with Rob, I joke with him all the time. Like, he has been so impactful on me over my time here from really day one, and even before that part of the interview process. And my relationship with him is so strong. He's such a good person. He's had the ability over these few weeks and couple months here to really, show some high quality leadership traits, bringing people together, personnel, coaches, scouts, everybody coming together to have really, really good dialogue and really, really good, back and forth to, in many ways there's a lot of agreement on players, and when there's not, we find good outcomes, we find good solutions, and that's all credited to not only our people, we've got great people here, but the leadership Rob has shown throughout this process, and it's been really fun, to support him throughout that and really dive into this year's draft class and even beyond that, free agency. But I know we're all really excited for this week.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Hello, can you hear me? Oh, what Kevin O'Connell just said about Rob Brzezinski at 10 NBA, I echo that about you. Just have so much respect for you. We've worked so well together over the years. And not only are you really good at your job, but you're a really good person, too. Do you think if he thought Rob wasn't a really good person, he'd go, but, Rob might need some improvements in just day-to-day, the way he deals with people, because he's
got a bit of a temper.
Yeah, he's really not a good guy. No, everything I've heard about Rob has been echoed by what the head coach just said. That's the head coach of the soon-to-be big game world champion Minnesota Vikings. And if you're thinking that's the end of our draft week NFL interviews, well, Wilbur, you're mistaken. Should we wait till 2:15 though?
Doesn't matter.
Should we just run them back to back to back? I
can run it.
Well, let's do Brzezinski.
He's a great guy. We got to hear from him. We got to hear how great of a guy he is.
So we'll do Brzezinski next.
I don't even know what his voice sounds like.
I don't either. It's crazy as long as he's been with the organization. We'll hear from Rob Brzezinski next. Draft week, I wish I knew exactly how much time till the draft started so we could count it down.
It's 3 days and 5 hours.
3 days, 5 hours. And
77 hours.
77 hours, 22 minutes and 14. No, we have to go backwards. 12, 10, 9, 8 seconds. We're back with more after this here on the Common Man program on The Fan.